Hey there, and welcome to another edition of Three Things Thursday. Now, as a reminder, each week I will share three things that hopefully enlighten, encourage, and inspire you. And in classic Sesame Street form, each week will be brought to you by a different letter of the alphabet. And today's episode of Three Things Thursday is brought to you by the letter G. Let's get started. All right, number one, grace. Grace can mean a lot of different things, no doubt. It is by grace we are saved. But today we're going to talk about grace in the realm of giving grace to others. Now, I feel like this is an endangered concept, sadly. These days, as we live in this world where seemingly everyone is selfish, they want everything their way and their timing and exactly how they believe it should be done. But this isn't loving or caring or compassionate. It is certainly not others focused, nor does it build up. Lack of grace corrodes relationships. Hear that from me. Lack of grace corrodes relationships. Let me expound on that a little farther. In our relationships with people, we show genuine care for them by offering grace. When they make a mistake, or when they say they will do something in a certain time frame and aren't able to, when they snap at you, but it isn't really about you or towards you, and so on. Giving grace is another way of giving someone the benefit of the doubt. Okay? When we care for someone, or entrust them and believe in them, we don't seek to condemn them or call them out or immediately hold them accountable for every shortcoming. All right, we give them grace because we can empathize with them. Right? We all mess up. Romans 3:23 reminds us of that. All have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. So how do we show grace to someone? Here's some easy steps for you, okay? First, be kind with your words, body language, and response. Okay? Be encouraging. Proverbs 15:1 tells us, a soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. So be careful what you say. Second, let it go, either temporarily or permanently. Take time to process whether whatever happened is something that really needs to be addressed or held on to. And yes, there are those times that you need to do that you can't let it go, that you have to address it. But sometimes the best thing you can do for someone is to not point out their faults, make a long list of everything they've done wrong, and then just, it's just easier to extend a little grace sometimes, and that might be better for them in that moment. Third, be present and show you are with them and on their side. All right, just be there. Fourth, forgive them and make sure that you communicate that you forgive them and love them. Giving grace, especially in difficult situations, can go a long way. And it can heal relationships, it can continue them. But remember, with the lack of giving grace, corrodes relationships. All right, number two, growth. One of my favorite Truett Cathy quotes, and he has a lot of great ones, is this: there's no mountain too high if we climb with care and confidence. This has been life-changing to me at times. Growth is not easy, okay, just like climbing a mountain. It requires discipline, sacrifice, effort, practice, and you need to know where you want to go. Having vision and goals, and then setting out a plan to execute that vision and achieve those goals. That right there is a simple way to differentiate between good leaders and poor ones. I mean, plain and simple, right? So how do you want to grow? What areas do you want to grow in? And if you don't have any, you won't grow. But we should all have them because we are never done growing. In fact, you're either growing or you're going backwards. Because let's face it, if you're stagnant, not moving at all, that's the same thing as going backwards. Okay? So this time of uncertainty is the perfect time to focus in on yourself, your family, your business, your ministry, or whatever you're involved in, and find ways to grow. Create a plan to get there. Don't come out of this time of isolation and uncertainty surrounding this pandemic without growing. Or at least don't come out of it without having spent time coming up with ways to grow and how you want to grow. You're going to fail, and you're going to slip and fall, and you're going to get hurt. This is all part of the process, right? I've always loved the image of God as the potter, right? And we are the clay. If you've ever used real clay, not necessarily just Play-Doh, but real clay to make something, you really have to get your hands in there and smooth it out. You've got to work with that clay, and it's hard, it's rough. It doesn't want to be moved around. But you've got to really work on that and to make those edges, to make those curves, to get it where it needs to be to look like what you're trying to make it into. Another way of looking at it is the word pruning. I like that word. Some of us me at times, are a little too stubborn, right? And we need someone to clip us down or knock us down and humble us. But don't look at that as a negative or even as a failure. More of molding and pruning and being shaped into who you are meant to be. That's what it's really about. We talked last week about purpose and potential. You cannot fulfill either of those without growth. And lastly, number 3, gratitude. I left this one for last on purpose, and we'll camp out here for a bit because it's that important, I believe. See, it's easy for most people to just think of gratitude as that programmed reply that we say for getting something, right? We just say thank you. And that's certainly important and it's necessary, so don't hear me say otherwise. It's a part of it. But I want to focus on a more deeper rooted appreciation and why gratitude should be a value that rates higher in your life than it probably does. Gratitude is a response, right? It's something that is triggered by another action or effort. However, what if we became a society and a culture that was grateful proactively? For most, saying thank you is about as genuine and realistic as when a child says sorry for doing something after they get caught breaking a rule because they believe that's the response that naturally goes with it and it might get them out of trouble. I have a 4-year-old, so I get it, trust me. But again, it's not wrong to utter the words. We want to hear the words, but there is more to gratitude than simply saying the words. When someone serves you, whether it's because it's their job or because they wanted to do something nice or even out of obligation, be grateful and express that gratitude. Attach your gratitude to the reason that you're grateful. What do I mean by that? Well, simply tell them why you appreciate them and what they did. Gratitude without affirming the person and telling them is like buying someone a birthday present, but never giving it to them, right? We always hear it's the thought that counts. Well, sort of, but you also have to give them the gift. Otherwise, why did you buy it? It kind of defeats the purpose. So yes, it's more than saying the words, but you have to say the words. Affirm one another. You have to say it, but you also have to mean it. Ironically, the times we're most grateful are the times someone really goes to the extreme to bless us or do something for us or serve us. How many times has someone offered to pay for your meal? The times we're most ungrateful are times someone goes to the extreme. Pardon me. How many times has someone offered to pay for your meal, give you money or a gift, or demonstrate their own appreciation by offering something? And how often, when those things happen, did you flat out deny them the opportunity to do that? How many times did you say, "Oh, that's not necessary," or "You don't have to do that," something along those lines, right? Or I don't really need it that badly. Give it to someone else who needs it. I'm guilty of that, to be honest with you. Maybe we do it because we don't want someone's charity, or we feel like we haven't earned it, or maybe we're just too prideful or arrogant, and that's not the good kind of pride. You see, when we do that, we're robbing people their opportunity to give. And we'll talk about giving another day, probably. And I love to give. I love to give my time, my talents, my ear to listen, my advice when requested, or sometimes when it's not requested. Oops. And sometimes when not. But I like to give my money when I have some, which is not always. But it's easy for me to give. There's a high for me, and something that increases my dopamine levels significantly because I just enjoy making others happy, surprising them, and giving to people. I really do. But sometimes I struggle with receiving gifts. I hate coming up with ideas for birthday presents or Christmas presents for my family and friends, right? It's just sometimes hard because I'm like, I don't know that I want or really need anything or don't want to make you have to get those. But I love thinking of creative ways to give gifts to my wife, to my daughter, my family, and friends. Why is that? I hate when someone doesn't want to accept my gift or turns down an offer to serve them. It hurts and it's not fun. So let's not be that way. Let's be grateful and let's make sure that we are appreciative when someone takes that effort and they make that effort to give to us or to serve us. It's that important. It doesn't mean you're obligated now to give something back. Most givers don't want anything back other than just simply you affirming that they did something, especially if they've gone out of their way to do something for you, whether you needed it or not. Affirm them, show appreciation. In fact, I'd much rather someone give forward, right? So if I give you something, I'm not necessarily I don't want you to give me that back. I'd rather you give it forward to someone else. Pay it forward. If you guys remember that movie and that phrase. If you've ever been a drive-through and someone in front of you paid for your meal, and you decided to pay for the person behind your meal, that concept, but at a higher level. All right, so don't show it out of obligation, but out of genuine appreciation. Trust me, it's free. Well, that's it for this week's episode of Three Things Thursday, brought to you by the letter G. Remember, grace, growth, and gratitude. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll be back next week with a brand new letter and brand new 3 things. All right, we'll see you next Thursday. Peace.